Assimil. This is a English without Toil disc on 78. That's the sleeve that came with it. Don't have any more of these. It's just this one came with its machine with the other French records, so thought I'd give it an upload. It's just interesting. Here you go.
120th lesson. Out for a walk. After lunch, the Smiths and their new acquaintances went out for a stroll. Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Pratt, and the 3 children walked together, the 2 men following a few paces behind. The little boy, whose name was Dick, was very shy and did not leave his mother's side, while Helen and John were always running right and left.
Mr. Hughes, such was the talkative gentleman's name, was bareheaded in spite of his baldness and the hot August sun.
They did not go down to the sea, but up the hill towards the cliffs. The tide was still high, and they could not go on the sands till after tea. As they walked along the streets, Mrs. Pratt pointed out various shops in which she had made purchases.
Everything is more expensive than in London, she said, but you cannot expect it to be otherwise. The tradesmen do very little business when the season is over, and they have to charge us as much as they can. One always needs little things such as cotton, wool, pins and needles, or soap, toothpaste and so on. But that is about all.
"Oh," exclaimed Mrs. Smith, "look at that darling little bag, the third from the left in the top row. The price is not marked. We must inquire on our way back. Isn't it lovely?"
121st lesson. What one can buy at the seaside. Before they reached the cliffs, the 2 ladies had noticed half a dozen shops to which they wanted to return. They had seen artificial silk stockings which looked like real silk in everything but the price. Mrs. Pratt had remembered, on seeing a bright green and pink jumper, that her own was out of fashion, and that this one would match her little boy's sweater to perfection. Mrs. Smith wanted to buy an awfully pretty necktie for her husband, who had no taste in those matters. John had been promised a toy airplane, Dick a scooter, and Helen a pair of scissors. In short, there was a busy time ahead, and the 2 women were fast becoming friends. They were nearly of the same age. Mrs. Pratt was a little taller and had fair hair, while Mrs. Smith was dark. Both were bobbed. Both were wearing short blue skirts, striped silk blouses, and felt toques without any trimmings. Mrs. Pratt had been rather lonely so far. Her husband, who was a station master in a London suburb, could come down only rarely, and she had found no congenial company at the boarding house.
Right, let's do the other side. I'll do them both together.
"122nd lesson. Mr. Smith becomes talkative."
The 2 men were also getting on very well together. As a rule, Mr. Smith was rather silent. With Carter and his other city friends, he would rarely discuss anything but sports or the weather.
These are subjects which provide a safe ground for conversation, without any danger of bringing in personal matters.
Every Englishman, it has been said, is an island.
But now the situation was exceptional. Mr. Hughes was a citizen of Glasgow, and there was little chance of their meeting again.
Under these circumstances, Mr. Smith felt he could relax from his habitual reserve, and he let himself go.
To his own surprise, he discovered that he had definite ideas on many things, and that he enjoyed expressing them and arguing with the Scotsman.
The latter seemed to be a man of wide and varied experience. He had started in life as a sailor, had been, among other things, an engineer in South America, a broker in New York, a commercial traveller in the Far East, and a naval officer during the war.
He was now an agent for a firm of fountain pens, and was making a good living. He was a widower, and had a son who was employed in a South African coal mine. He had had a daughter who had died of consumption at 17.
127th lesson. On the beach.
May I bathe now, Mother? Asked John.
You are all out of breath and perspiring. Lie down a few minutes by my side. We shall all bathe presently.
Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Pratt, both in bathing suits, were sitting in folding chairs, while the two gentlemen, also undressed, were lying on the sand.
Mr. Hughes, rather excited, was relating an experience of his in America.
I said to him, "It is a damned lie. I beg your pardon, ladies. I mean, it is an untruth, and I can prove it." Well, would you believe it? He insisted that I was mistaken, and that I had ordered 3 dozen bottles the night before.
The cheek of those people is something awful, put in Mr. Smith.
The next day, he brought 2 witnesses who swore that they had heard me give the order. They were honorable businessmen, and I could not give them the lie. So I took the 36 bottles of hair restorer at $1 each.
And didn't it make your hair grow at all?
I never used 1 drop of it. It had a smell of rotten eggs, enough to make a dog sick. But how drunk I must have been when I ordered it.